What would happen if all 7 billion people screamed at once? Nothing, just that sound decays too quickly to have any kind of combined amplification effect. I mean, you'd hear the people in earshot yell, but yeah, probably not much else. Nothing would happen. But if the more interesting thing of everyone being in the same place and screaming at the same time, this XKCD could serve as an inspiration. What have you done to me? I never should have been told about this website. An hour has passed and I am lightheaded. What day is it? The noise wouldn't even be a big deal if you're not in a crowded enclosed space. Even then, any permanent damage seems unlikely. The biggest thing that would happen would be afterwards. Everyone asking why the hell everyone screamed at once. Some kind of super advanced global mind control? Were aliens involved? What was the point? Are they taunting us? CNN would milk it for weeks and would probably feature Richard Quest with the dubious title of mass screaming expert dishing out pointless observations, while the hosts continually tell us how we should feel about the whole incident. There is a well-known short story about a king that proclaimed that at a certain moment all the subjects of his kingdom, all his subjects were to stand outside and exclaim "All hail, name," or some such nonsense. At the appointed time the king positioned himself on a hill near the largest city of his kingdom. All he was able to hear was a single young shepherd boy in the distance say the chant as loudly as he could. The answer to the question, what would happen if all 7 billion people screamed at once, is not much. The 674 million people who didn't just randomly start screaming will become extremely paranoid about the ones who did. If you've ever been to a European football match, you know the answer to this, though stadium acoustics can differ. Large cities with high-density neighborhoods would have a roar, small towns will have a brief loud noise. We'd only hear people within a certain distance of us. Also, our voices can't generate enough noise to really do any harm. A machine that is created to be extremely loud can cause earthquakes due to the high frequency which vibrates. Our voices together wouldn't be able to. The pressure wave released would cause the Earth's tectonic plates to shift, cause massive volcanic eruptions worldwide. It would also cause tsunamis across the globe. The ocean level would rise as the ice caps melt, leaving only the highest peaks above water. I am currently working on a device that will cause this very event to happen, and nobody can stop me. My fortress in the highest peaks of the Himalayas is heavily guarded and impenetrable. Wahahaha. Nothing much, I believe. It would be a mess, and you can max scream for about 5 minutes until your voice box gives out. India would probably be the loudest. Some birds and dogs but get freaked out. A human scream is 100 dB, and to break glass you need 105 dB, so in places where the concentration is high a bunch of stuff would break. Again, in population dense areas, people might get a bit deaf for some time. A ringing sound. If everything is perfect, same frequency, same air density, no energy loss and waves colliding at same point without diminishing each other, we could create the boom that carries 7-8 megawatts of energy. A normal sonic boom created by a fighter jet carries more than 10 times of this energy. And remember, this is an imperfect environment without any energy loss. It would simply be a sound that covered all the land. The normal holler of an individual is 80 decibels, and produces 0.001 watts of energy. Adjusting the total populace to 7.125 billion, if everybody shouted together, so this sound would surely make you go hard of hearing. Nothing much, but it would be an incredibly cool experience. There once was a very important football game for my country, and everyone was home watching it, and I mean everyone. I was walking the dogs with my mother through the empty city, and as we passed through a high place where you could watch the entire city below us, The team apparently scored. From the absolute silence, suddenly the entire fucking city started screaming at once. Go ooh ooh ooh. It was totally unexpected, but it was a weirdly magical experience just hearing the entire city scream below us. Let's give this a shot from a sound perspective and define some terms. The average person can scream above 100 decibels, the standardized measurement of loudness. Let's take the low estimate and just say 100 decibels for one person screaming their lungs out. To double the volume, you actually need 10x the output, so 10 people together scream twice as loud as one person on their own. As a very rough average, a doubling in loudness is about plus 6 to 10 decibels. Again, let's take the lowest value here. One person is 100 dB. 10 is 106 decibels, etc. etc. Up to 1 billion, we're up to 154 dB. Now, we'll add, say, 4 extra decibels to approximate another 6 billion folks. So, how bad is 158 decibels? Well, if every person on Earth was standing next to you and screaming, that's well above the threshold for immediate permanent damage to your hearing, and you might even go deaf at that volume if your ears aren't ready for that pressure differential. 140 decibels is the pain threshold, and it's equivalent to 1,000 gunshots going off simultaneously next to your ear. It's nearly twice as loud as a full-sized firework going off 1 meter away from you. But realistically, not everyone can stand that close to you. For it to actually get that bad, everyone would have to be phasing through each other. It's still not healthy for anyone's hearing, but the distance between you and most other people will make it hard to reach even 136 decibels, let alone 158 decibels. Don't max out your phone volume, kids. It's not good for you. Probably be a bunch of heart attacks. People with many kinds of mental illnesses all freaking out or getting their illnesses triggered. Made worse, a lot of neurodivergent people would have a very hard time coping. Probably some suicides or violent crimes caused by paranoia and panic. Anyone with migraines would probably want to die. Lots of chaos and fear and confusion. Flare-ups for anyone with hypertension. Basically a worldwide health crisis. I mean, I was under the impression that it would be a quick scream, so this probably wouldn't happen unless we all held the scream like teenage girls from early 2000s movies. I mean, even just a quick scream, when it's all the people on Earth, couldn't be entirely synchronized so it would last longer than one person's quick scream. There would also be a lot of echoing and reverberations that would amplify and prolong the sound. I think no matter the intention, we would end up with a fairly long scream, even without these technicalities causing the sound to last longer. It takes about 3-4 random people in a room screaming at the same time for everyone to get on guard and ready to run. If everyone screamed at once, it would really be terrifying for most people, no matter how short, and those who are more predisposed to anxiety or paranoia would jump to the worst conclusions for sure, and other people probably would too. If everyone screamed at once, you'd be screaming too, so you'd either understand why everyone is screaming, or, when everyone stopped, you'd wonder why everyone screamed and nobody would have an answer. I live in a town outside of Vancouver, BC, close enough that if this sort of thing could work I would hear it. That being said, when the pandemic hit last year, we were all clanging pots and pans and whistling and cheering at 7 p.m. for the doctors and nurses. It was a big deal, and yet, I could barely hear the noise from my own neighbors, let alone a town over. Maybe not as a direct result, but world peace would have been achieved. Imagine the utopian society you could build if you managed to get everyone on the same page enough to have them all scream at once, or doomsday hit at the exact same time everywhere. Either way, all conflict has ended. Are all the people in one location? In that case, a decent amount of amplification. Probably close to 200 dB. you would lose hearing and possibly break glass. This is because sound is logarithmic, or rather the scale is, and so is our sensitivity to it. If you started with a 100 dB scream, you would add 10 dB for every logarithmic jump in population. I'm sure it would make the news, unless it was orchestrated. Otherwise, nothing as far as the effect of the scream. If 60,000 people in a stadium can scream on their team or at a rock concert and not even be heard for blocks away, that tells you the actual scream won't do anything itself. People's reaction to it will vary greatly. Again, that's a bit spontaneous and unexpected. Not a whole lot, really. Think about someone screaming next to you and how loud that is, then think about how quickly it really gets softer as they move away. Then think about how spread out from each other most people really are. I really don't think it would amount to very much besides a fairly minor irritation in densely populated areas. Everybody'd hear everybody with the nearshot. No wait. Chain reaction set off as everybody wants to be last to scream. Echoing screams traverse the globe until everybody only ever screams, scream hello, scream goodbye. Different screams, different meanings, a universal language, scream meaning. Total protonic reversal, likely a black hole, but that would require all the people of this planet to scream at one time. But you know how it will go, there will always be that one guy who decides it's a conspiracy and he refuses to do it. Oh, and that other dude who thought it was supposed to happen at 7 a.m. on the 30th of February and not 7 p.m. on April 1st. There will always be someone to screw it up. It depends. Let's say that an average person screams like an alarm clock. That would be 80 decibels per person, times 7 billion, that would be 560 billion decibels loud. Also, the average fart decibels is 80 dB, so it would be like 560 billion dB of fart at once or 2,800,000,000 rocket launching. You could probably heat a cup of coffee at once with that power, which would normally take you 7.5 years to heat with a single person. It would cause avalanches, an earthquake, and the earth would become flat. What happened next they could not ignore. With a noise like 100,000 people saying "wop," a steely white spaceship suddenly seemed to create itself out of nothing in the air directly above the cricket pitch and hung there with infinite menace and a slight hum. There would be a wave of odors, probably not good smell. Full-on screaming frequently causes you to fart while screaming. 7 billion a-holes all farting street once, no way to get upwind of that. In a few of the biggest, most densely populated cities it would probably be fairly loud and weird sounding, like Mumbai or Seoul. Everywhere else is kind of wasting their time. We'd have all sorts of doomsday cults popping up as people somehow shoehorned it into some kind of prophecy, because how else could everyone all scream at the same time for no reason that they could explain, unless we were all somehow subconsciously aware of some world-devouring eldritch horror dark god fixing its gaze on Earth. This reminds me of the kinds of questions my preschooler has been asking me lately. What would happen if my leg fell off? What would happen if no one ever talked? What would happen if the floor was lava? On purpose, lots of high fives BC. The human race has never achieved this level of coordination. Not planned. Well, I think you just wrote an FX series, The 7 Billion Scream. Better question, what if one guy saw the entire Earth scream and painted it? Cuz that one has a chillingly beautiful answer. Well, constructive waves, sounds of the same frequency and volume, double the original sound, so potentially this could cause a very loud noise if enough people screaming would cross a similar sound frequency and volume. Considering most humans' voices are most prominent in the 3 kHz 5 kHz range, I don't think this is impossible. Most common ambient noise level in a city is roughly 60–80 dB, so potentially in urban areas this could become really loud if those people were in close enough proximity, probably unlikely in the cavity era. Consider a jet engine is around 160 dBs. Also consider the opposite effect. Destructive waves, shocking I know, is capable of making those isolated vocal videos and removing copyrighted audio completely from YouTube videos. Audio waves increase in exponential ways, so I think worst case scenario you break some eardrums, shatter some glass and set off a lot of car alarms. But I don't think it's likely. However, if you intentionally put a lot of people of similar vocal ranges, maybe men and women separately, in the same space like a sports area and told them to all yell as loud as possible at once, you might get something. There is a video on that years ago on YouTube, it might have been of Sauce Video. They had shown an experiment or a Guinness World Record thing for most people screaming at one. The collective force could be heard for several kilometers away. That was also people all clustered up too, I think. That would be pretty creepy though if you live in a city or suburb. I can hear a small group of people from them yelling from a kid's baseball game like a half-mile away. Now if people in all of the house up to the baseball diamond yelled at the same, that would be creepily loud, I would imagine. Tesla had some interesting ideas on this, and now being a musician with big rolling sounds based on delay, loop work, I can say the power is real. Frequency can generate self-sustaining and increasing waves. You can roll that thing like tides or trampoline super jumps through just for regular stack amps and a little know-how. So when groups of musicians can generate a loop that pushes on the wave, then yup, it can create serious waves. That being the analogy. Not so much if everyone screamed at once. BC it would certainly be dissonance, big no. But if done in amplitude steps, harmony optional, time just specifically, it could yes create what Tesla theorists mentioned, a tidal wave of Earth rolling like the tides, which sounds like a hello wave to ride and frightening at the same time. I don't know, but one contribution I can provide is that in my primary school, there was a charity event where they got everyone to bite into an apple at the same time. It was themed around how loud the crunch would be, but they also played a crunch sound on the loudspeaker, which felt like cheating to me. Boo. I know it was almost 30 years ago, but boo. I find it fun to assume what will happen. Guessing that 7 billion people are able to make some noise. Now, if everyone makes equal sound, then combining levels of equal loud sound sources about 108x increase in levels, which is insane. Now, we all are not standing in the same place, we're not synchronized. We all have different frequencies, different pitches, different vocals, etc. The atmosphere and the things around us suck out most of it, so not much will happen, I guess. India and China alone will make the rest of the world go deaf. The rest of this sound will be scattered, and as you know, the speed of sound is not that faster and it fades away. Unlike light, it will not have the impact that you're looking for folks in cities, but sound is pretty well insulated. Think of those obnoxious kids listening to loud music in cars. That is significantly louder than what a single human can scream, but oftentimes all you hear is the bass, and you'd scarcely hear it 20 car lengths away. It is storming where I am, and even if everyone hear it to scream, I highly doubt it would overpower the storm. The circumference of Earth is 40,075,000 meters, so you're 20,037,500 meters from the other side. The speed of sound at sea level is 343 meters per second, so everyone would have to scream for 16 hours straight for the true effect of 7.7 billion simultaneous screams to be heard. If my understanding of how sound works Volume increases on a logarithmic scale, so for every double of power it would be 3 decibels louder, so if you could have every person at a single point and scream, it would go up approximately 99 decibels. But since if you would take all of those people and make them people-sized and gather them in one spot, approximately the size of those island if I recall correctly, the signal loss would kind of mitigate that whole thing and it would be less than that.